We're going to start with the nation. SANS, poll under threat by returning officers' powers. Council, Labour Party is built on ethnic sentiment. Ukraine's interior minister, 17 others die in crash. 2 remaining victims of the Edo train kidnap attack regain freedom. That's great news. We deducted 3.3 trillion from the Federation account for subsidy, says NNPCL. Ndlea seizes properties, 500 billion naira worth of drugs in 2 years. APC PCC slams PDP for avoiding response to the Atiku Gate. Direct flights from Israel to Nigeria starts in March. And why Inspector General Usman's tenure was extended by minister. Okay, which story are we starting with? Major headline?
Major headline. So our eyes are open because Chief Wole Olanipeko and Chief Olisa Agbakoba are doing what SCS should be doing, which is, of course, to probe our legislation that we have. So Chief Wole Olanipeko faulted Section 65 of the Electoral Act, this one that will be determining our elections going forward. And Section 65 empowers the returning officer so much that it usurps into the powers of the court. He says that Section 65 provides, subsection 1 provides that the decision of a returning officer shall be final on any question arising from or relating to A, unmarked ballot box, unmarked ballot papers, B, the rejected ballot paper, and C, declaration of scores of candidates and the return of a candidate, provided that the commission shall have the power within 7 days to review the declaration and return where the commission determines that the said declaration and return was not made voluntarily or made contrary to the provisions of the law, regulations and guidelines and manual for the elections. And subsection 2 of that same section, it says the decision of a returning officer under subsection 1 may be reviewed by an electoral tribunal or court of competent jurisdiction in any election matters. But it at first has given the power to review to a returning officer. This, of course, is something that bothers us. Then Chief Olisa Agbakoba wrote to INEC to clarify the requirements of a presidential candidate. Let me just quickly summarize. In that section, it provides that a presidential candidate, if there are just 2 major candidates, requires a certain percentage of total electoral votes cast. But when there are 3 of them, it requires a quarter of the total electoral votes cast. And it's a very dicey, unclear area. So in one position, it requires that he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast. And such clarity, INEC has not responded since those issues were raised. These are the future electoral petition issues that we'll be having post-election.
Power given to the
Yes, the powers of INEC and powers given to REC. And both of them said that it's amazing that, our national assemblies and our national houses of law making body put together this act and nobody spotted this, this lacuna that.
All right, let me take the FAC. So FAC subcommittee, actually the post-mortem subcommittee presented a report on Tuesday yesterday saying that the NNPCL had deducted 3.3 trillion naira to pay for fuel subsidy. That money could have been redirected to infrastructure or development of our country. They also say that NNPC had failed to disclose the locations of government properties, priority projects, which they inherited after they changed their name. Now, government was expecting that they would have some revenue from these projects. According to the report, last year NNPC did not remit 1 kobo into the federal account because it was using revenue generated from the sale of the crude to pay subsidy. Also, they said that the House Committee was supposed to go and revisit these projects, but they didn't even give them access to visit the projects, so they don't even know how far they've gone. And they're trying to hold NNPC to account, saying that your books must be more transparent. You must be able to let us know what is going on and let us know how much is being, how much revenue you're making and how much money that the country is losing to subsidy. Okay, any other story there?
Yeah, I was going to take the Edo train kidnap. The Edo State Commissioner of Communication and Orientation, Chris Nehikari, had said yesterday that the 2 remaining victims have been released, and they were seized on the 7th of January. He also said 2 additional suspects, that's 2 village heads, chiefs, had been arrested in connection with the kidnap, and that they were happy with the success story. The chiefs have been arrested, and they're helping with the investigation. They also, as an aside, they complained that the federal government is not helping them with the Lassa fever. But I wanted to say another person, this is another paper, but I wanted to add the two together. The executive director of Youth and Good Governance, Benson Odia, said that those chiefs are not guilty, that the Edo state government is using this as political, it's because they don't belong to another political party. I just wanted to add that one.
All right.
Okay, but for me, it takes away from the celebration of the fact that all the victims have been rescued.
Yeah.
And that is major, and we
Yeah,
thank God,
I
because
think
we
that is
know
major too.
exactly, especially after what we experienced with the Kaduna-Abuja train. So
Stuff like that never goes viral.
Yes,
Rather
we need to just celebrate that.
Celebrate it, celebrate
Please.
the police who have rescued them. I think I'm just so happy that everybody has regained their freedom.
I have another story. So the Ndlea chairman, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, was responding to journalists, and he mentioned that one of his personnel, Ndlea personnel, was killed in Sokoto in the line of duty. And he said that, and then he goes ahead warning unrepentant drug barons and cartels that they will even face tougher times in 2023 if they fall back to, doing what they're doing. He said that in 2022, the seizure of assets combined with drugs is a rough figure of 500 billion. Of course, the value of the drugs is up in smoke because they burn them. And then he said that, especially when he was talking about the slain Ndlea personnel, he says some communities, some of these drug barons, what they do is they build schools, they build hospitals, clinics in the community. So they come across as being supporters and helpers of these people. And when Ndlea or other security operatives come in to get them, they defend them. These barons also arm some of them. So they also have their militia who fight them and kill them. So we just need to understand that these are not our friends. They hate us, really. They're just using us.
Yeah,
so for
absolutely.
communities that don't recognize that, and that is another pointer to the government where you need to be present so that you don't, there's no void for evil, to take over.
It's a vacuum.
Yeah,
a vacuum.
yes.
There's a vacuum. All right, so there was an important part of the story I took earlier that I thought was really important I didn't miss. The federal government also discovered that the NNPC is shortchanging FAC because they are underpaying the federal government as a result of them using...
Who is FAC?
FAC is the Federal Allocation Committee. So they're the ones that hold our money, right? Now, so they're saying that NNPCL is shortchanging federal government, not remitting the real value because they're using the exchange rate lower than the CBN official rate on domestic crude sale for the product. So that's a problem. They're shortchanging us with the exchange rate they're using. That is really criminal, I would say. Moving on now to The Punch. Let's find a story. Fuel scarcity bites harder. Marketers blame NNPCL. Train attack 2 Edo chiefs, 5 others arrested. FG asks US to probe Nigerian Don's death. Delta 2022. Monumental medal padding taint National Sports Festival. Fans excited over possible Wizkid Davido historic tour. Envy stopped Abiola from emerging president, says Obasanjo. Emefiele appeals court summons challenges judge. And Nigeria owes China, Japan, Germany, 2 others $4.85 billion. All right, which story are we starting with?
Can I start with the...
Please go ahead, Waiki.
The federal government has asked the U.S. to probe a Nigerian Don's death. He was found in his house. His name is Professor Marinos Iwuchukwu. He was found dead in his apartment in Pittsburgh with his lady friend. When the SWAT entered his house, because they got a phone call that there's something here. When the SWAT got there, they found him stabbed to death, and his partner, a 50-year-old woman, with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Yeah. So the federal government is asking the U.S. government to please probe it and let them know what is happening. Let's know if there is foul play.
Okay, so Baba was in, that's our former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was speaking on Wednesday delivering a message at the Old Baptist Boys Association. He was there in Abeokuta, and he was giving a speech. The lecture was Eyini We Wada's URR epistle at the centenary celebration of the school. He was saying that he, alongside MK Abiola, other prominent people like Prince Bola Jibola, were also alumni of that school. He was saying that they would have gladly said MK Abiola was a former president, but it was bad belle that prevented him from becoming president. And bad belle means, obviously, envy. You know, so he was saying that was an expression from a pidgin language, according to the papers. They were trying to interpret that. But sometimes bad belle is bad belle envy.
Yes,
yes. Really? Okay. So he was just going on. I was speaking, and we saw the video where they were doing this walk, this trek.
I thought that was
and he was there, active, and he still be as boyish
so strong
as he's always been. So I was trying to see Obasanjo in that. He's over 80, right? He's still healthy. Yeah. Yes. And he was at Anyoko's party. I mean, the guy is really active. Goodness me. Okay, let's go on a quick break. Let me see how much
I wonder if he's active.
No, let's move on to the break. Thank you.
Mikey, stop wondering.
Don't allow her to say what she's about to say.
Mikey, it's a question I can ask him. If I still ask him, why wants to know if you're also very active?
Why?
Let's go on a break.
I'm curious. I'm just curious.
There's a way to answer that curiosity.
So let's go on a break.
Don't ask that question. Don't ask that question.
No, here's what I want. Thank you for staying with us. So we're still reviewing Punch. Who has a story?
So I have the federal government owing $4.85 billion totally from our loans generally. So we owe 5 countries: China, Japan, Germany, India, and France. And we owe them these amounts of money borrowed between June 30, 2015 to September 30, 2022. So the loans that we have taken so far have gotten us to that tune. It's amazing how much the amount is. You know, experts are saying, according to the managing director of Carrier Asset Management, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, amid dwindling revenue, we are not earning money from sale of crude. With NNPC complaining that we're not earning, this is a very risky thing because the cost of debt servicing is huge, and it will tell on our entire revenue, following this. So we need to improve on revenue generation. Other experts in this article also made the same assertions, but I would leave federal government to advise themselves. Subsequently, on how we'll go.
Any other story in Punch? Okay, let's move on quickly now. Vanguard, gradual removal of a petrol subsidy starts April. Moderate growth alone would not be enough to boost economy, says NESG. Muslim ticket, my husband has never impeded my religious freedom, says Tinubu's wife. Buhari approves 1.9 trillion naira for NNPC's intervention in 44 road projects. Nigeria's next president should come from the southeast, says NCEF. Buhari, Obasanjo, Adebanjo, Sanwo-Olu, Obi, Tinubu, others hail Anyoko at 90. And Oshodi, Apapa, gridlock, touts extorting us, have Lagos government's backing, says truckers and freight forwarders. Okay, which story are we starting with in Vanguard?
Okay, so I have the Nigerian Economic Summit group yesterday. They emphasized that moderate economic growth only cannot boost the economy except with comprehensive and system-driven reforms that can create value to Nigerians. They say that going by the different projections, the economic outlook for the year 2023 remains pessimistic for Nigeria, and that for us to tackle unemployment, reduce poverty incidence, and address other socio-economic challenges, we need to have comprehensive and system-driven economic reforms. So what he's saying that so far from what they have seen, we're not towing that path, and unless we want to see a different Nigeria, where Nigerians are not suffering this year, 2023. This is a global atmosphere of this fear of economic downturn, recession, and things like that. But he's just trying to tell us that Nigeria has not put anything in place to show that it's ready, to tackle this downturn that we may be experiencing this year.
Okay, so maybe
okay, right.
So the Minister for Finance, Budget and National Planning, Aja Zainab Ahmed, was speaking on a TV interview where she said that the federal government will start a gradual removal of the petroleum subsidy which they have already, planned for June this year. They will start it by April. She said it's better to do it gradually so people would, sort of grow into it than do it at once, where you will shock people. So, but they have budgeted 3.35 trillion on petroleum subsidy from January to June this year, which means that they do not have plans for, they didn't budget for after June, and so they don't have plans to pay subsidy after that time, but they will start the gradual removal by April. I want to see where they will start to invest what they remove starting April, May, and then June. We'll see, and that will inform us, on the sincerity of this policy to remove subsidy.
Yeah, so Senator Oluremi Tinubu was in Imo State yesterday, or 2 days ago. She was there for the Tinubu-Shettima women campaign, and she was there to pledge her husband's support for empowering women. According to her, she said they would deliver on all their promises, and she said that she's a pastor. She said, I am a pastor and a deaconess, and my husband has supported me all the way in my religion. Nigeria is beyond religion or tribe. We love each other, and we're going to bring prosperity to the whole of the nation. So she was there campaigning for her husband and showing that women will be empowered because, according to her, women have never been impeded in any way within her husband's administration in the past, and that they will continue to uphold and support women across board. Thousands of women showed up, and I was really surprised. Imo State, everybody was scared of, how IPOB is quite strong in that region. But it's good to know that all the different parties had come and campaigned, and there were no records of anybody harmed, which is good news. Another story in Vanguard, moving on quickly now to the Nigerian Tribune. Section 65 of Electoral Act, dangerous, says Olanikwe. FG state, local governments shared over 990 billion naira in December 2022. Atiku campaigns in Ogun promises power devolution and industrialization. Kidnappers demand 20 million naira on 4 tipper lorry drivers abducted in Kwara. Delta identifies 35 flashpoints of illegal cattle grazing. $53 million debt. Emefiele appeals against summons. IGP not retiring at 60 has a 4-year tenure, says Police Affairs Minister. And FEC okays NNPC to invest 1.9 trillion naira in 44 federal roads. Okay, any story in Tribune?
I was going to take the kidnap of the 4 tipper drivers in Kwara, in Ilorin. They were kidnapped, and then the kidnappers contacted their families and asked for... They went to go and collect sand, and that's where they were kidnapped. For 5 million each on each of their heads. So the wives of the drivers were now seen in the community begging for arms to please help them to free their husbands. And I thought that was really, really so sad. Because these are poor people. Where are they going to get money, that kind of money, to free these people? The police, the state police PRO has said, PPRO, Ajayi Okasomi has said that they will soon arrest them. So 2 suspects have already been arrested.
Okay. Hopefully they are.
I hope they're able to rescue them, just like in Edo State, because paying ransom is unlikely.
But it's 5 million per person.
Yesterday's FEC meeting ended with, presided over by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, ended with the Federal Executive Council approving the recommendation that NNPC invest 1.9 trillion naira in the reconstruction of 44 federal roads. I think about 4,554 kilometers in total. That they invest that amount of money to repair them. This was announced on behalf of the Minister for Works by Laolu Akode, who is the spokesperson to Professor Yemi Oshibajo. This, of course, is a welcome information, but I'm wondering, NNPC that is claiming there are not any money, and it's a private limited. Let's just clear out the gray areas and be sure that this is a neat one.
Any other story in Tribune?
No.
Right? Okay. I was going to take the Inspector General of Police, but I can't find the story right now. Okay, any story?
It was just, they asked him, they asked the Police Affairs Commissioner that he's
going to be retire at 60.
Yeah.
He's going to be 60 in March.
Yeah.
I had taken that story that he was supposed to retire, but they're saying that he has an extension or something?
Yeah, no, that he signed a contract, a 4-year contract. So
he's still well.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That's good. Any other story? The Guardian, we have a few more minutes. Posers on Buhari's security success. Senior advocates question legal framework for 2023 elections. I understand Nigeria's issues, says Kwakonso at Chatham House. I was offered 10 million naira visa to implicate Saraki, says of a robbery suspect. Obong of Calabar re-elected days after sacking by Supreme Court. CBN allays fears over counterfeit new naira notes, and Buhari okays 1.9 trillion naira for NNPC to reconstruct 44 federal roads.
Yes, I've got the
CBN.
Yes, so the acting branch controller, CBN Akure, Mr. Sanwo-Olu, yesterday at the sensitization program for market women and traders at the ADDG market in Akure, he urged Nigerians to disregard all the rumors they've been hearing about the new redesigned naira notes. He says they do not bleach, and that the introduction of the new notes, the economy of the country will be strengthened. There will be reduced expenditure on cash management. It will promote financial inclusion and also enhance the CBN's visibility of the money supply. And then he says that the traders shouldn't wait until the 31st of January to, that's the deadline to return their notes. He's encouraging them not to keep cash at home anymore and also cultivate the habit of taking their monies to the bank. And he explained that the decision that was made by CBN to redesign these notes was not targeted at anybody.
But that there's
sorry, but he says that there's significant hoarding of banknotes, with statistics showing that 2.72 trillion out of the that's naira out of 3.26 trillion. But here they put dollars, so I'm thinking it must be a mistake. So it must be naira as well. Currently in circulation as of June 2022 was outside of the vaults of commercial banks. And so this is a way also to make sure that monies are returned into the banks and less, outside the banking system.
So one of the robbery suspects, in fact, the principal robbery suspect of a bank robbery case in Kwara State, was speaking to the in the court. Ayuade Akiniboson on Wednesday told the court how the former commander of the IRT, that's the Intelligence Response Team, DCP Abba Kyari, offered him 10 million naira to implicate Bukola Saraki in the case. He said that Kyari promised to give him a visa to any country of his choice and implicated for him to implicate Saraki, and adding that he had turned down the offer, saying that he wouldn't collect money. He also said that about 10 persons, if you recall that robbery, 10 persons were killed, and several residents sustained serious injuries. He said that they wanted him to admit that Saraki was the one who asked them to go rob. And I told him that I wouldn't do that, that I'd rather die for what I believe. And according to him, they put them in a cell, they shot people, they also threatened him to just do implicate.
That was
but they did implicate Saraki. Can't you
yes,
remember?
we remember his name was thrown around.
Yeah, but Saraki had nothing to do with the robbery. He said that we were about 15 to 20 taken to Abuja. I only knew about a few of them. We were put outside and served the meal, but I couldn't eat because my hands were paralyzed due to the torture. According to him, he was also tortured. So these are...
Wait, is he not a robber?
So, yes, he's the principal, yes, but he was saying that he wasn't sent. He was asked to say that it was a Saraki.
But Morel, sometimes there are some elements of truth, even if he was lying. This case was a straight case. Why are we still prosecuting this case till today? Of a robbery happened about 2 or 3 years ago. It was a straight case. The video was bloody.
Yes,
evidences are bound everywhere. The CCTVs from the banks caught these guys. Why are we still in trial? Till today, waiting on our uncover.
So that's
not keep person.
As again, they said for Nigeria to work, our justice system and our law enforcement must be swift. Those are the two things that we need to do. Okay, that's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, it's Thursday. Start with our hot topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.